Hey guys, what's up? It's Kevin for the win, and we're back for another edition of Diablo 3. Today on the channel, we're going to be taking a look at the Pestilence armor. In particular, we're going to be doing a Corpse Lance variation of it. Corpse Lance variations used to be incredibly powerful until Bone Spear Necromancer took over, primarily on this particular armor set. We're really going to be focusing on the 2-piece and the 4-piece bonus. The 6-piece bonus, we're really not going to get any particular use out of too much due to the fact that we will not really be using Bone Spear in conjunction with our Corpse Lances. So pretty much disregard for the most part the 6-piece bonus set. It's not going to be a major factor here. So we're going to use the helm, the shoulders, the breastplate, the gloves, and we're also going to be using the boots. We're also going to be using Captain Crimson Silk Gurdy so that we are able to get a bit more attack stat and power out of this armor set because we're going to have a lot of cooldown reduction. This armor requires a great amount of that. We're also going to be using the Justice set in particular to be able to modify our skeletons to be able to do more damage. We're also going to be using the Johnstons. This is very important for this set because it increases the amount of damage that Corpse Lances do after a Land of the Dead is cast. So we're also going to be using a Crispin Sentence for the ring because we're going to be having a lot of cooldown, slowdown type of ability. We're also going to be using a Conventional Elements. That way we can take advantage of the damage windows that provides us. For the skills, we're going to be using Command Skeleton, Land of the Dead, Frozen Lands, which we are trying to get the most cooldown out of, Devour, Set. We're also going to be using Blood Rush, Molting, so that can give us an additional corpse. We're also going to be using Corpse Lance, Brittle Touch. This is the most to get the most damage out of it. For our passives, we have Standalone, which is not going to do too much for us, Overwhelming Essence, Blood is Power, and also Final Service so that we can take more damage. Inner Cube, Relina's Shadow Hook, Corpse Whisperer's Pauldrons, which is extremely important for this build, and of course, a Ring of Royal Grandeur. Here is the intelligence breakdown of everything, pretty much, so that's where your paragons should be invested. And we are going to do, for the sake of this video demonstration, showing you how exactly this armor plays out, we're going to be doing lower greater rifts. The big problem, in particular, with Pestilence Corpse Lance is until you start augmenting the armor with ancient legendary gems, it is extremely weak and will suffer at higher greater rifts. This is really an armor that is great for farming at lower levels because you can speed through things and get a lot of materials that you need to craft things and whatnot, so keep that in mind. This is not really something that's going to take you super high into greater risk because you're going to have situations in which you are not able to cast Corpse Lance. So the first thing you really want to do with this is you definitely want to cast the Simulacrum's Reservoir just so you can get a little bit more damage out of it. Next thing you have to do is cast Land of the Dead, and then you're just going to be using Consume to automatically, as you see here, fire barrages and barrages of Corpse Lance at everything. Now keep in mind, Land of the Dead has a very long cooldown. So when you're in situations where Land of the Dead really hasn't cooled down yet and you can't cast it again to fire a whole bunch of Bone Spears, or in particular Corpse Lances I should say, what you're going to want to do is try to take out as many minions, or as many villains or enemies I should say, with your command skeletons, and then just consume those corpses to fire off Corpse Lances. So that's pretty much what you're going to do to pretty much secure. As you're attacking with the command skeleton, since we're using Goak of Swiftness, which is extremely important for the set, you'll be able to get a lot of corpses around and then fire off a couple of Corpse Lances. And it'll also reset, as you see here, Land of the Dead. Once you have your Land of the Dead reset, cast Land of the Dead again, and then just fire non-stop while basically with consuming the corpses. Tons and tons of Corpse Lances. Now keep in mind, this is pretty much how this armor focuses on. You have to just keep firing Corpse Lances and going as fast as possible. You need to take great advantage of your Land of the Dead. So keep in mind, if you are not seeing a highly dense populated area of mobs, you may want to reserve casting your Land of the Dead until you see enough enemies on screen, because if not, what you're going to have to rely on is casting your own corpses to then be firing out Corpse Lances. But really, anytime you have Land of the Dead, rely on your command skeletons and teleport around the screen, creating corpses of your own so that you can consume them to fire corpse lances that way. Then you're just pretty much waiting again to your Golok of Swiftness to come out, so that then you can just cast Land of the Dead again, and then just go pretty much nuts with as many corpse lances as you can fire. Now keep in mind, after Land of the Dead has pretty much expired its effect, any corpse lances that you cast afterwards for, I think it's up to about 30 seconds, will be doing an even more tremendous amount of damage. So if you're on a lower greater rift such as here, you can kind of take advantage of corpse lances that are not cast by consuming corpses. But really, most of the time, it's Land of the Dead, and then you're just going to consume things and fire non-stop corpse lances for the maximum amount of damage. This armor does suffer from the fact that when you don't have Land of the Dead available to access, that you leave yourself very vulnerable, because there are not too many ways to attack. You don't have a primary resource generator like some other particular build, because really you're just trying to get to the exit gate as fast as possible by firing off as many corpse lances as possible while trying to keep your cooldown up. Now, for this particular armor, definitely invest all in Flawless Royal Diamond in all your particular pieces outside of your weapon slot. That should be, for all intents and purposes for this build, a green gem, an emerald gem, which will give you a bit more critical hit damage. The rest of it should be royal diamonds, so maximize the amount of cooldown potential, because the set relies 100% on doing its damage via Land of the Dead, so there's never a situation where you really want to be in long stretches without being able to cast a Land of the Dead. Keep in mind, see, I haven't cast it yet. I'm waiting to get a bigger, higher population density of mobs so that they can get the most and maximum amount of efficiency out of my corpse lances. So, since we're still on low greater rifts, we can take out things with command skeletons. If we get up into the higher greater rifts, these command skeletons start to do less damage, which is why this armor now has fallen off greatly in the amount of usage. I'm casting my Land of the Dead here. As you see, now I'm just going to pretty much fire as many corpse lances as possible. Unfortunately, as you can see here, I'm in a situation where there weren't a lot of enemies around me, so that was kind of a wasted Land of the Dead cast there. But I'm going to use the command skeletons, some of my best abilities, as well as additional corpse lances I'm firing without consuming corpses to do some damage, so that when we get to the Rift Guardian, hopefully Land of the Dead will recast. If not, I'm going to fire off the command skeleton. We're in a lower greater rift, so even a couple of corpse lances that I fire normally should be able to take this out. So that's pretty much how the armor operates. Like I said, this is a very good armor for farming at lower greater rifts, preferably between greater rift 60, 65, and under. Once you get up into the 70s, there's better armors that you can use that will do basically what this armor does, but better. That would be the Masquerade of the Burning Carnival, which is the Bone Spear Necromancer build, which you can find available in our playlist. Just look at our Diablo III playlist. We've covered almost all the armors at this point for the season in Diablo III. We're also doing a couple of variations. There is, speaking of variations, for Corpse Lance Necromancer, there is the Tragold version of Corpse Lance, which I will be covering in a future installment. For now, I wanted to cover the Pestilence. Case in point here, this is a perfect example of what you really like to see in terms of dungeon layouts for Pestilence Corpse Lance, because as you can see here, when I casted that Land of the Dead, I was able to maximize the amount of targets that I was able to consume and then fire off Corpse Lance after Corpse Lance after Corpse Lance. Keep in mind, every corpse that we consume boosts the amount of damage that our Corpse Lance does, and thanks to Land of the Dead, we just can keep firing Corpse Lances off of consume with relatively no casting costs whatsoever. So here's another situation where I don't have Land of the Dead yet, but since there's so many corpses around, thanks to the fact that we're still at a low level, so that we're able to pretty much use command skeletons to kill things. See, cooldown's back thanks to command skeletons. Now I'm going to go pretty much waiting to cast that Land of the Dead. Okay, I'm going to cast it now because this is a good area to just go ham and fire as many Corpse Lances as possible. As you can see, this is why people like Corpse Lance, because you're able to farm at low levels with great and relative speed. A long time ago, when Bone Spear Necromancer wasn't all the rage, this is how Necromancers would do very fast speed runs. Ideally, if you want to do super fast speed runs for Necromancer, Pestilence, Corpse Lance, you have to invest a lot of time in this particular armor to get the desired stats. You need ancient legendary pieces, completely augmented with legendary gems in every slot. Then you need to maximize the amount of cooldown that you have, as well as critical hits, so that will take quite a while of farming. Ideally, for people who are not playing Season, if you want to use Corpse Lance Necromancer like this, at this type of efficiency rate at high greater rifts, you would need at least bare minimum of about probably 3,000 Paragon points to be able to get really the most effective out of it, where you'll be doing roughly 2 to 3 minute clear times. You can do, and I'm going to do a greater rift 70 in the future, pretty soon, actually coming up, because this last one was 45, this one's 55. Next one I will do 65, and then we'll do 70, not 75, because this armor cannot handle 75 at the moment. It needs a lot more optimization, but this is pretty much how Necromancers pretty much played before Bone Spear Necromancer, when they wanted to speed farm through things. Particularly this season of Diablo III, Season 22, the two armors that are pretty much the ones used and the go-tos for Necromancer is the Legacy of Dreams Poison Scythe build for the Necromancer. I have a video covering that particular armor and everything that you need to build it and how to operate that one available in the playlist. I also have, as I mentioned before, the Bone Spear Necromancer build using the Masquerade of the Burning Carnival. That pretty much operates very similar in terms of playstyle to Corpse Lance, for the exception that you are relying on Bone Spear and pretty much zoning your enemies from super far distances to pretty much just cut through them in straight lines. And you're pretty much going to have the same pretty much playstyle as this armor. The only difference is you're not firing a barrage of bone missiles at your enemies, and it is easier to micromanage your resource costs, because obviously with this particular armor, once you run out of corpses to fire and you're still kind of waiting for Land of the Dead to cool down to be activated again, you leave yourself extremely wide open. Case in point here, which is why this armor has fallen off greatly. Now, there are things you can kind of do. You can play around with this armor a little bit. You could probably use a primary resource generator. The problem with that is that you are going to lose a lot of speed for this armor and efficiency, because primary resources are attacks are not going to do a whole bunch of damage here. So you're going to hit them, and they're going to hit you a lot harder. I probably should not have casted Land of the Dead here, because this is kind of a waste of a cooldown. Hopefully I can get to this exit gate real fast, and I believe we still had it for a couple seconds, but unfortunately there were no corpses around for us to take maximum effect. So again, when you're in a situation like this, you will let the command skeletons do the work. You will teleport around the screen, creating corpses so that you could use to just fire off regular corpse lances. See, that's why I teleported there. I'm going to fire off 2 or 3 corpse lances. It will kill low rift guardians with ease based on the gems that we have. We have Bane of the Stricken, Bane of the Trapped, and Gorok of Swiftness, as you see here. For this particular armor right now, we are just going to level up our Invigorating Gemstone, because I want to use this to augment an ancient legendary piece, whether it's for this particular armor of the Necromancer or another one that I'm going to do for a future video. So keep that in mind. And as I mentioned before, for the month of February, we are going to be doing multiple Diablo 3 videos in a week. This is a Greater Rift 65 right now, so there's some benefits to this. When I cast Land of the Dead in higher Greater Rifts, there are going to naturally be a lot more enemies and mobs on the screen. The drawback is, yes, they will have more HP, which means if I'm not very well optimized, it will take a bit longer to clear things out. Another situation is that obviously Necromancers are a naturally squishy class. You could, in theory, in your pants, put 2 of the, not the Amiset, but 2 of the, they're the yellow gems. The name is evading me at the moment. They're the ones that normally would give you thorns if you wanted a little bit more toughness. something else that you could do is you could switch out the diamond in your helm for the purple gem, which is Amethyst. The yellow gem is Topaz. I finally remember that. So you could do that. The problem with that is every slot that you take away from your cooldown, the longer it's going to take to get back that Land of Dead. That's why I don't recommend that. Some people will probably recommend that you mess around with the gems. I say you go full on cooldown for the exception of the weapon slot, so you can maximize the amount of cooldown you have, so that you're pretty much in situations where you are not standing still for a while waiting for command skeletons to do enough hits and waiting very long periods. We're talking like probably you'll wait 2 minutes waiting for a Land of the Dead to go off. Case in point here, there aren't a lot of enemy targets for me to attack with command skeletons, so you see I'm kind of very vulnerable waiting just for Land of the Dead's cooldown to finally go off. See, case in point here, I found an elite pack, but I don't have Land of the Dead. Now Land of the Dead, finally I can cast it. Now I'm going to go ham. Obviously you see lasers there, so I got to be careful because I can get squashed very quickly. As you see here, this is greater of 65, and although I'm able to take out a lot of mobs fast, you're noticing this is suddenly starting to become slower. The higher the HP of the mobs, the less that my corpse lances are doing, even after getting the benefit of Land of the Dead in conjunction with the ability of this armor set. Every time you consume a corpse, naturally you're going to fire off a bone corpse lance. So that's stuff to keep in mind. This is why this armor has kind of lost a lot of favor. Another thing is, obviously, with this armor, you don't really want to stand too still in situations where you're high greater rifts, because obviously you have mobs that are firing fireball and projectiles such as arrows, and you are very, very squishy. This is an armor you don't want to stand still too long. Yes, we're able to mitigate some of the amount of damage that we're taking thanks to command skeletons, because every time they attack, we get health back, which kind of helps, but really as you go higher up in the Grey Rifts, the amount of health that you're going to get back per command skeletons being commanded is not that significant. It's significant enough to help you survive a little bit, but it's not going to be maximum. Okay, so this is a dungeon layout in particular that Corpse Lance kind of likes to see, and it kind of doesn't. It's great in the beginning of the stretches where you're able to fire off a whole bunch of Corpse Lances to attack a lot of mobs, but then once your Land of the Dead is over and there are not a lot of targets on screen and you have to do a lot of twists and turns, case in point here, you will leave yourself, as you see here, more vulnerable, because again, you're waiting on Land of the Dead's cooldown. And yeah, you can teleport around the screen and now create a corpse and be able to fire off a Corpse Lance or two and consume it that way, but it's going to slow the process down significantly, especially when you get higher up in these greater rifts, and some of the lower level mobs take a lot longer to kill. Case in point here, still doing fairly well. This armor set in particular, I believe I've augmented 2 of the armor pieces that are ancient legendary. So it will be most likely the Captain Crimson pieces, if I recall correctly, because those are ancient legendary pieces. Okay, I got my Land of the Dead back, and this is where you go ham again. You just start running, consuming every corpse in sight. Ideally, you're trying to do elite pack hunting so that you can just find the orbs. So you're just going to keep running as much as you can, finding elite pack after elite pack after elite pack. And then, in theory, you should be grabbing those elite pack orbs that drop in order to push up the greater rift so that you can clear it. In theory, it's really about hunting, because really you don't want to spend too much time on the low-level enemies outside of the fact that you need them to increase the amount of cooldown reduction for your Land of the Dead. But ideally, if you can try to avoid fighting a lot of them, try to avoid it. Ideally, you want to try to keep your windows of opportunity very small. So you want to have your Land of the Dead. So you have to kind of really get high, densely populated areas so that Gorak of Swiftness stacks can be maximized for their highest potential. Good thing I didn't cast Land of the Dead there. This is a good map to cast Land of the Dead. You're going to see why here in a minute, because since there's so many mobs on the screen, you are able to just cast non-stop Corpse Lances. The unfortunate thing here is that the Rift Guardian... Oh, no, I still had Land of the Dead, so it was kind of good that we were able to, and there were a lot of corpses I hadn't consumed yet. But that, ideally, is what you really want to see when you're playing Pestilence Corpse Lance. This is not as simplistic of armor as I'm making it look at the moment. Again, you need a lot of things for this armor to work correctly. You need ancient legendary pieces. You need a lot of cooldown. You need the gems. The Johnston necklace is mandatory. You cannot use this armor without the Johnston's necklace. If you attempt to try to use this armor without the necklace, you are going to run into very bad situations where you are taking extremely long times to clear even the lower greater rifts. This is a greater rift 70. I'm going to show you how well this armor holds up in this particular situation. As you can see here, I'm super squishy, and I have now lost my Land of the Dead. So because I've lost my Land of the Dead, now I really have to rely on the command skeletons and trying to consume any corpses that they're able to kill for corpse lances while I wait to reset the cooldown of Land of the Dead. So there's a lot of things you have to keep in mind here. This is why this armor is incredibly complicated to use in the higher greater rifts, although you'll have more potential to kind of keep your Goak of swiftness up as long as you don't get squashed. As you can see, this armor really starts to suffer from projectiles, so you have to be very, very careful with the projectiles. And in theory, a lot of the times when you're doing higher greater rifts, case in point there, I finally got the Land of the Dead active, and a stray bullet killed me. Why? Because I'm not really geared enough to handle this situation. I could put an Amethyst Diamond, or not Amethyst Diamond, Amethyst Flawless Amethyst Gem in my helm to reduce the amount of damage that I'm going to be taking. However, then I'm going to use the lose cooldown, and I'm going to have to spend a lot longer trying to get my cooldown up. Really, it's a matter of personal preference. I do not recommend taking away from the cooldown to give yourself more toughness, because even if you give yourself more toughness, Necromancers are very squishy. It's naturally how the class plays. Anybody who's played Necromancer will tell you that. So it's a matter of just trying to be smart, trying to avoid projectiles as much as possible. My Land of the Dead is about to go off, okay? So it goes off again. Now I'm going to try my best to avoid projectiles while just continuously, non-stop giving barrages of corpse lances. All these corpse lances are powered up because of Pestilence. Now any corpse lances that I would fire afterwards, because Land of the Dead, usually about 10 seconds is the amount of time you have. Any corpses I would fire, lances I would fire right now at this point would be powered up via the Johnstons. Unfortunately, though, as you could see here on the map, there were no more enemies to take advantage of that particular buff. So you have to really rely heavily on counting on densely populated areas of mobs, being able to time your Land of the Deads correctly where you're not wasting them, and then hopefully having enough corpses around when Land of the Dead expires to get the most out of your Johnston's necklace. So there's a lot of things that play a factor in this particular armor working effectively. Case in point here, Greater 70 is great in the sense that you're going to have a lot of mobs coming at you, so that you are going to do a lot of damage potential. This armor is kind of good when you have this optimized enough for Greater Rift 70 to actually farm Paragon, because since you are taking out huge amounts of mobs, you're able to get high massacre bonuses, and high massacre bonuses in Greater Rift 70 allow you to Paragon farm fairly well, up until when you get to about 1300 range. When you get to that 1300 range, you're going to see that it's a lot slower to accumulate Paragon. Case in point here, look, I took an death. Very, very squishy, and there's certain situations that don't work for you. Fortunately, I have the Land of the Dead back up. I'm going to try to, again, fire a barrage of missiles, bone missiles, you could say, at everything possibly in sight, wiping out everything. I know there's orbs up there, but I want to take care of all the threats first that are around the map. Now my corpse lances are pretty much over, so I'm going to want to swing back to get those purple orbs, as you see here, in a moment. So that's pretty much what you want to play. You're looking to elite pack farm, so you're elite pack hunting. You're looking to find an elite pack and then get to the next elite pack and get to the next elite pack while you have your Land of the Dead active, so that you can just fire tons and tons of corpse lances. Here I kind of play chicken a little bit, because as you see, I'm taking a lot of damage and Land of the Dead is not up. This is where this armor suffers greatly. That's the Achilles heel. There's my Land of the Dead. Now I'm just going to fire off corpse lances. Now I got to go back to hunt that elite pack. I'm not going to walk into that because I will die one hit there. Case in point here, I probably should have went a little bit more aggressive and casted more corpse lances, but I believe we're at the exit gates almost, so not going to be too many mobs around this area, yeah, based on that particular layout. So in this situation, again, you're going to use your command skeletons to attack things, to create corpses, to then fire off corpse lances that you consume. That's just probably the only way you can kind of mitigate in between how you are going to increase the amount of cooldown reduction that you have on this set, especially on higher greater rifts. Potentially on higher greater rifts, you really don't want to run into a situation like this where it is taking a long time to get back that Land of the Dead. However, just based on the map layout here, once you play Diablo enough, you kind of will see these things naturally. I kind of know that if I start casting a Land of the Dead here, I'm not going to maximize the amount of efficiency. So I'm looking on the map. I'm not going to cast this Land of the Dead because there's no mobs around me. And I know enough to see that we're close to the exit gate. I think the exit gate, as you can see right there, is coming up, so I wouldn't want to cast it. These are things you learn naturally. This is a great map, like I said before. Now cast Land of the Dead. Fire up all these Corpse Lances. And it's the same situation as the last Greater Rift that we did. I'm put in a position where I'm able to just take out that Rift Guardian with ease. And even though I took like 2 deaths there, this is still a pretty good run for a Greater Rift 70 Pestilence, even with not a fully optimized armor. In this particular situation, I am looking at the gems. I am going to level up this Bane of the Powerful. I don't need it in this armor set. Most of the Necromancer sets are not going to use a Bane of the Powerful, so I'm probably going to use it later down the road to augment a armor. Probably this one, or maybe something different. So that pretty much is how Pestilence Necromancer plays. Pestilence Corpse Lance Necromancer in particular. On the next video, which will be Wednesday, I am going to be taking a look at the Firebird set for the Wizard class of Diablo 3. That is a very bad armor. I'm going to try to make it work. However, I'm going to have to do it with a legacy version of Etch Sigil, which is a Etch Sigil that is from Season 21 and under. But I'm going to show you how you can kind of get the most out of a really bad armor set. So that's going to be a very fun experience. Make sure to tune into that video on Wednesday. There will be 2 Diablo videos a week for the month of February. They will be on Mondays and Wednesdays. If you haven't already done so, make sure to give this video a like and consider subscribing to the channel, as it helps the channel grow. And I will see you Wednesday for the next Diablo 3 video. Till next time.